tonight.
Are you ready? Yeah. Let's go.
Critics are calling The Accountant 2 undeniably awesome.
Is your brother up to speed on the case?
Braxton, thank you for coming. I'm really glad you're here.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Ben Affleck and John Bernthal have electric chemistry.
That's my big brother up there!
It's better than the original in every way.
Anything else?
I think we gotta go get drunk.
And it's one of the most entertaining movies of the year.
I think so too.
The Accountant 2, rated R, under 17 animated without parent. Only in theaters tonight.
How are we doing this morning, everybody? Get this music turned down a little bit. Ooh. I think that's barely audible, right? I don't know. We'll let it be there. Oh, camera's over here this morning. We'll slide. There we go. All right. Got Sir Blondie here with us. Got the door open and Mr. Sparky wants to come in. But he's hanging out in the living room this morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Welcome to, I guess we call it grinding grains. Grinding gains. Got our coffees. Hopefully you got tasty coffee. Not tastier than mine, right? Welcome to the channel. Thank y'all for stopping by. Let me see. We got that. That means we need to switch this over here. Oh. Maybe a little self-grandializing here. All right, we're gonna go through form check today, like we do Thursdays. I'm going to try to find a handful of people, try to give some critiques, and more importantly, try to give them some plans of action, some things that they can do to help build on their progress or towards their goals and get the right. I like to jot down everybody's names, and then I send them a message or chat. The thing, come and look at it. Right? Alright. Oh no, this is gonna bug me. We have to move this. That's not it. That's chat. We don't want to move chat. We gotta move the dogs. Press all. Alright. Lines. They bug me. Gotta get them all nice and clean as best we can. Even though the left side of the thing is very heavy. We'll let it be, I guess. Let it be. All right, let's get back on track here. I'm going to slide into form check. Nope. Slide back into form check. We're going to be on new. Like I said, I just try to hit the newest ones up, and then we go from there. All right, so we've got this gentleman, equivalent oil, 3128, dead form check. Hi, the deadlift still feels very weird to me. Any tips is appreciated. I tried around with different stances since I'm so tall. 2 meters. I don't know what 2 meters is in freedom units. Assuming that's like 6 feet. Thank you, Google. 6.5 feet. So yeah, he's not short. Let's see. Go full screen here. So this is less of a critique for this gentleman, but just if you are going to be doing a video of yourself, I know it's kind of a pain in the ass setting up the camera, but try to have yourself a little more square if you can. It does a lot for perspective and helping anybody viewing it, seeing angles, or if you are going from the back, either having it square. I don't really care so much for the 45-degree angle. But it has its places too. And kind of giving you a little bit of both the lateral and the posterior view. Now, let's talk about what we see here in the squat, or the deadlift, and what we can do form and technique wise. So do we notice anything in the feet? I always like looking at the feet first. All right, it's the foundation, and we see things, we'll see it in the feet. I think a lot of times you can always look up the kinetic chain. But the biggest thing I'm noticing just off the cuff, right off the jump, a lot of pressure in the toes, and we see the heels kind of lifting up on the way up, and then watching on the way down, right, we see all that big external rotation of the feet. So the feet rolled out real hard, so we're not sorry about that, we're not really planted into the ground. I always show this silly little thing for our feet. I know it's hard to see with that lighting.
Of hot or iced brewed coffee or tea. So stop in.
But when we have our feet planted to the ground, staying in that parallel planes with our big toe and heel, and we're gripping the ground with our feet, we don't want to allow those kinds of things to happen. What that's showing is a lot of instability, and so when we roll over to the heels, it's taking our knees real wide, and we're hyper contracting into the glutes for that reason as well. And so it's one of those things where pain's the last signal to show before something kind of goes owie in a bad way. Whereas this little compensation of the foot rolling over, or the leaning forward into the toes to press up, that's all showing us the story, right? It's going somewhere, but do we alter the story? And like this guy's trying to get his form check, right? And so that's one way we go about trying to change that story, so that way we don't go into our injury, we create more strength and stability within our joints. So let's keep moving on. Seems to me, one, I don't really like the hand position. So we get down here, and I would normally ask, what is our goal, or what are we working towards? Because maybe there's a specific reason we're holding inside of our thighs. However, if there is no particular reason other than we're just trying, like if you're doing a sumo deadlift, so you have your feet really, really wide and your toes externally rotated outside of the parallel lines I was just talking about and showing on the whiteboard here. If we're not doing that specific variation, that one requires your hands to be inside of your legs, right? We have to have this narrow wrist grip. Slam my shit out of my camera. We're doing more of a traditional stance or more conventional style deadlift. We're gonna want our arms typically outside of our thighs. Now you can get into a wider stance like a snatch grip deadlift, where we're going almost to the collars of the barbell. And then that works your back and your grip and other things differently. But if we're just learning the movement, I would advise you to put your arms on the outsides of your thighs, basically, and such that your elbows and what have you are rotating into your arms when you're taking the slack out of the bar, which you're gonna have about 1,000 people probably tell you that. That and get new shoes. That is what Reddit always tells people to do in deadlift. Go barefoot, get lifting shoes. And fuck, I forgot the other thing I was making fun of. Oh, and taking the slack out of the bar. All of them are good tips too. So positionally, really want to be more, again, having your mass back in the heels. Your leg position doesn't look too terrible. It looks more like a squat. If anything, we'll talk about that here in a second from this angle. Again, when you lift this, notice how your body's forward. And again, we see this heel lift. Yeah, we barely see it in here. Let me do this. All my ugliness. Look at that. There's a little hidden thing back there. Who knew it? Who knew it? All right. But yeah, we see here down at the bottom, and we see the heels lifting up and your toes are bearing all of the load. We also notice how far this barbell is way out in front of you. Like, it's out there. So while we're here, we take the work. I'm in the wrong one. I don't know how to use these keys. Right there, right? So all the mass is forward. If we have this bar further back, it should be gliding up your shins. And you'll see this with a lot of, if you watched any high level competition deadlifters, or even if you've gone to a deadlifting meet as a hobbyist, there is likely a lot of scabbed up and torn up shins. Just gnarly stuff. It comes because we have to pull that bar in towards your shins. If we took a hot second here, we'll just use paint. All right. Go away. So if we think about our feet, big toe, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 little toes. We got the big toe joint, and then we got the heel, and then the outside edge of the foot here. Right? We'll call this the outer pad there. All right, it's a little tripod. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3 points of contact with the ground, ideally. Right, and so anytime, just like any table, right? You have a 3-legged table, it can still stand. And depending on how evenly everything is, it's going to stand very well. But we go into a 2-legged table, right now it's going to be wobbly and it's going to fall. So we want that bar to be as middle of the foot as we can. The more we get this bar going up here, the more it's just going to drag you out that way, right? You're going to have to really work to keep that thing from being over there. We're going to be really unstable. We're not going to be able to drive as hard. You're not inviting the same muscles to work. You're losing your whole posterior because we're not engaging with the heel into the ground. So you're going to have to create this force almost of pulling the bar in towards you the whole way up. Be pressing those shoulders down into you. You'll feel your chest lift. You got to kind of almost roll that bar back into you. Don't save. And so we may have like an inch or two. So like a, I don't know, is that a centimeter or two between your shin and the bar? And again, that'll also eliminate this heel lift I'm complaining so much about. So taking it back, right? We need to get our heels to the floor.
Dad, are Are you gonna make s'mores or not?
You know, let's heels back on the floor, and then even as we're setting up here, arms wider than your knees. Not that you're necessarily reaching wider, but just let them be on the outside of your legs. Feel your arms against your thighs. Feel your thighs on the inside of your arms. And even to that point, you could work on the sense of pressing your knees out into your arms, and you can even work this sense of pressing your elbows into your arms. All those are going to be good things to kind of help turn things on, but not at the cost of your feet rolling out and other things. Now, here again, we're looking at your setup. And I get it that, again, lengths are going to be an issue. You're a tall dude. So, one thing you may try is raising the bar. I mean, first off, go lighter weight. Lighter weight would be the first thing, honestly, we would go to. So if you can get like the equivalent of like 5 or 10 pounds on each side, so like 5 kilos ish, that are about the same size as these wagon wheels here. That would be maybe the first thing. Or if you have a rack nearby, just do some rack pulls. So put the hooks in such a manner that it's holding the bar about shin height, mid shin height. And then you can just do the unloaded bar and work on your technique. There's no reason you have to have this weight on the bar. Now, we're talking about heels down. Big thing. Other thing I would work on is raising your hips up as you're getting into setup. This will bring your knees back. Sure, fine. It's going to help you, though, keep your heels down. It's going to put tension in the hamstrings here, which is good. Even though you're not necessarily going for a Romanian style deadlift, which is, again, we won't confuse things right now. We're just working conventional. But getting the hips a little higher, pushing your knees back slightly to keep the heels flat, thus also pulling that bar back into you. From there, we see this little rounding of your lumbar. We'll look at that closer during the lift, but I would really work on eliminating that. So pushing the hips up, and this is where you're going to do how I refer to it as a cat-cow motion. So you suck into your belly, create a big scaredy cat posture, right? Rounding your back. Hold that tension in the stomach. And then you're going to work on lengthening into your back against this tension on your abs. And that should be a motherfucker for breathing. But this will get you more of a neutral spine, whereas right now you have this compensation and this roundness to your lumbar. Like I said, we'll double check it on your lift. There's a lot of things going on right now that we're kind of nitpicking and grinding out. But those are going to be some important things for you, and as far as longevity and not jeopardizing your lumbar there. And why do we care? Why do we care about the lumbar? A lot of people will refer to it kind of like as a jelly donut. And so we have our spine vertebrae, bone. They're not really doing much or going anywhere, I should say, long term relative to the disc. And so it's the disc are the jelly donuts, and this is encased fluid jelly, and it's protecting our spinal cord. Like the spinal cord's going through this as well. Between the vertebrae, it's the disc, and if over time we're putting too much compression on one side, right, it's like a balloon is going to start squeezing out one end. It's not that they're porous, not that the discs are porous, but it's the repetitive stress or the excessive loads or sudden loads that you get the sudden impact and pressure pushing out. Now, if it's repetitive over time, right, it's just like anything. Paul will say, on Tuesdays, he does the show with me. He'll say, if you take a feather and, it'll take maybe 1 million slices, but if you go 1 million times, you'll eventually cut somebody with a feather. Right? It's just that repetitive stress. And office places, you hear it as RSI from too many mouse clicks and stuff of that nature. Lifting is no more. It's no different, right? It's a repetitive stress. And if we do it to pain or if we do it with poor movement patterns, right, we're going to eventually end up with an injury. So all that to be said, working on getting that low back flat so we don't end up stimulating or creating that injury pattern. Now taking it back into the setup here as well, like I was teasing earlier, you're going to hear a lot of comments are likely going to be saying to take the slack out of the bar. But that really is meaning in the sense of packing your shoulders down away from your ears, right? And so we already talked about bringing the arms to the outside, but then when you do that as well, right, we started in this idea of pulling the shoulders down and rotating the elbows inward. Some people will cue it as bending the bar or breaking the bar, but it's from the shoulder. You know, we're trying to generate the movement through the shoulder, not the wrist. Those itches. Head position looks pretty decent. Maybe pull the chin back a little bit so that way your ears are in line with the shoulder, but all in all, in this angle, it looks pretty decent. I think the bigger fish to fry, right, is going to be the foot position and keeping our heels flat. I'm wondering now as I look at it if we have any of this ankle's rolling in. We saw on that one eccentric load how this left foot rolled out. In any case, I'm getting distracted. So yes, hips back. Say that wrong. Hips up. Pull the knees back. Get the heels down. Get there. Get yourself a little cat-cow action so that way our spine, you get rid of this lumbar and get a little sway back action. Right here, you're just priming yourself to pull through your back. If you wanted to work a rounded back, or if you wanted to work a rounded spine deadlift, that's going to be more in the thoracic. And it's okay to have a little bit of roundness to the upper back, but the lumbar, we really don't want any movement going through. It's not
Hey
ideal.
y'all, this is singer-songwriter Riley Green, and my idea of a good time is grabbing a guitar.
Let's see that low back. Yeah, see that low back is like you are here.
On this weekend, no guitar needed.
Busch. Enjoy responsibly.
Damn it.
2024 Anheuser-Busch Busch Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
What kind of car does Mark Andrews drive? Easy. One that's insured with USAA.
So right here, I know you're probably really focused on squeezing the glutes, but you're probably feeling a lot in the low back. From here, this is like where it looks decent. I'm not going to say it's good. That sounds like an asshole. So our head's pointing down. We need to fix that, right? Have your vision pointing, looking straight. And we see the ears now in front of the shoulders. So again, getting the head back. But we want to have this sense of this arch to the back is decent. However, do you still feel your stomach muscles working? Do you feel that as a stopping force, or do you feel this acute pinchiness in the low back at the top here? All right, and that typically, if this may not be necessarily the Redditor we're looking at having this issue. A lot of times when we get into this lockout position, we're really hyperextending into the low back. Uh-oh, steam-a-boo. We appreciate it, but, you know, GTFO with your crap. Now you're going to make me log into the damn, get into Twitch, and I got to go into my channel, my creator dashboard. We got to deal with this dribble. How do I do this? We want to. Yeah, we'll report them for sure. Spam. Middle. Lock them. Off with their heads. What else again? How do I get rid of this fucking chat? Sure. There we go. All right. Let's get back to it, y'all. Sorry for the distraction. So, a lot of times we'll get this again. We'll let go of our stomach effort to get more of this lockout feel or this squeeze, and this ends up generating a lot of low back issues. You may be getting a lot of glute contraction as well, but that's great. But I wouldn't do it at the cost of that cat-cow feel. So again, we draw into the navel, lengthen into the abs. How does that feel? How does that tension generate into our stomach? All right, so let's watch a few more here. So sit back. So again, we have that tension in the belly. We don't roll the pelvis back. We don't bend at the back. We hinge at the hips. Right, again, so again, we see the weight is way too far in front of us. Unless your hips go up as you're trying to set it down. The more you can get those hips back, the better off you're going to be. So some things for you to work on are going to be, I always quote it for any squats or deadlifts or lunges, but it's going to be a dowel hinge or a dowel squat. Both of them are going to be good for you. Working on helping you sense your core engagement and then generating movement about the hips versus just the sense of up and down. I think for you, it'd also be really good to work on just a forward bend, working on trying to lengthen into your glutes, into your hamstrings, and getting to a point where, you know, you can hinge and get down to your hands about your knee, your hips height, definitely knees height, but down to like mid shins or so. And then working FTCs, feet to the ceiling. So that's going to be working on your core engagement as well. So you'd be laying down on your back, what's called supine. Flex your hips with your knees extended, so straight legs up to the sky, and then trying to work that low stomach muscle to have the idea of pushing your heels up into the ceiling. So the combination of those three would go a long ways into improving your technique. Now, you know, I know this is going to sound like an asshole. I understand geometries are different for every human. Now, that being said, the rules of movement are still going to apply to us. So before we kind of offshoot some of our stuff to our geometries, make sure you're really kind of honing in on these mechanical issues. Right? Again, I understand that, again, the cues or some of those things may be different. And maybe once you've really kind of cleaned these things up, you still can't get to this standard bar height, which is cool. Raise the bar up to yourself, right? Give yourself a little platform and lift them up. Or again, as I was saying earlier, you use the hooks. If there's a squat rack nearby that's low enough for you, you can use the hooks where you're picking it up dead off of the hooks, kind of rack pull style. Don't blame the height. Don't use it as an excuse. And again, I'm not trying to sound like a dick or your dad about these things. But find these little things, clean up these other things first, and then let's reassess the height. Right? Height could be more about, again, the hand position and hand width. Your squat will be really dependent on how the length of your femurs and whatnot, and what we see in the knee traction. But keeping the heels flat, that's every human. Keeping your feet engaged with the ground, that's every human. Right? A deadlift, I mean to scroll. Yeah, we got again this scaredy cat kind of lift you got going on here. That's really what we're trying to avoid, right? Where we're pushing through the toes. And so that's just going to be learning your body, learning your mechanics. And even here again, you look more to be in a squat stance. Right, I keep kind of subconsciously calling this a squat. This is to me a little bit more of a squat stance. And the squat and a deadlift are very, very near cousins, if you will. I think I'm messing with my coffee again today. But I would say take this position, get your hips a little higher, feel that tension on the backside. Equivalent oil. I'm working on this idea and concept of trying to give everybody scores, because everybody likes to have a score.
Looking to change
but I have no idea how to standardize it, other than making it just a feels thing.
As you are. Whether you want
It
that
being very
sun-kissed balayage look,
subjective
face
in the
braiding
moment.
highlights, or a full-on transformation, our expert stylists have you covered. At prices
That being
that fit
said,
any budget.
for me, this is
welcome. Or you can book
not
your
good.
appointment online today at fantasticsams.com. Visit your local
Now, maybe
store,
it's again, we
Fantastic
in a
Sam's.
session or two, we clean this up real
Your
quickly.
perfect look.
But based on the instability of the heels, to me, kind of the odd arm position, to me, this is like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. We don't have anything about pain going into here, so we can't talk about that as far as downgrading them. But to me, there's just a lot to build on here, a lot of room to grow. The bigger issues are going to be, again, like I said, this is going to be all of his lifts are going to have this to some degree. Like any of his lower body efforts are going to be this way, right? We're going to be dodging, staying in the heels. It's not intentional. It's just the compensation. So I would, again, tear down the weight, go just to the bar. Again, if we were programming this, I would do maybe start out and get yourself a light sweat, maybe 2 to 3 minutes on some sort of rowing machine if you wanted to, or light jogging around. But then I would say even you don't want to do that, just get into some FTCs, or not FTCs, get you into some forward bends, supported forward bends, like a table, a chair, a box, something just to where it helps you take away a little of the sway, even if you feel really balanced. Start off there. Feet and thighs squeezing together, sitting back into your hips till you feel a slight stretch into the glutes and the hamstrings. Right, again, the external table or the external balancing source will help you, again, make sure you can get that stretch sense into the glutes and the hamstrings versus elsewhere. Now, I would cook you there for about 2 minutes. Now, what you could work on from there is a push-pull sense. So get to your stretch feel, and then pull your knees towards your chest. Now your feet are going to have to stay on the ground, right? So you're not really going to go anywhere, right? It's a weird cue. I'll give you that. But having this sense that you're pulling your knees towards your chest, activating your hip flexors. And then do that for about 10 seconds, maybe even to 30 seconds. Then reverse, right? Hit the shifter. Put yourself in a pressing force, pushing into the ground, squeezing the glutes, pushing into your feet through the floor. What up, Palito? How we doing, man? Friendo. Isn't it just amigo? I know some Spanish, if it's Spanish. How you doing today? I gotta move. Chat's in a bad spot right there. Look at that. Look at that. We gotta move, y'all. How your workout journey going, man? Let's see. What's been your big brain move? Got him taken down. I'm doing ready for work. How about you? Today is a social media day. I know how pretentious does that sound? We're doing well though. We got the stream here this morning with y'all. Just got our first form check in. Then I gotta make some YouTube crap and figure out how to post on the regular. I'm such not a social media person, so trying to get with it. What you do for work, my guy? Or gal? I assume guy. I don't know if I assume everybody on here is a guy because it's Twitch, because it's exercise, or because of the O at the end of your name. I cannot working out yet. I still need to recover from the flu. Oh, man. Was it the good kind of flu with hallucinations and crazy sweats? And I remember one time I had the flu in college. I had never had the hallucinations. That was something else. That was a wild. Then I had what was it also? Pig flu, swine flu. Pig flu? That was another one. That felt like a 3 or 4 day hangover. So weird. Salesperson. Good deal, good deal. So what is the number one tip in sales? Check out this incline bench press. First time doing these. Am I doing correctly? Am I holding these dumbbells at an angle too close to my chest? Feedback is welcome. Lift at moderate rates because I wanted a form check before it lifts. God damn it. I love it. Look at this. Lifting moderate weights because they wanted to get their form check. That is beautiful. Read little things, then you shop. Read the little things, then you shop smarter. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right, because a lot of people don't know what the hell they're buying in the first place, I don't think, right? They just know they need a widget. They don't know which widget they need. Well, that's how I ended up being. That's not how, but it's part of it. But I remember I had an AC guy come by and I wasn't really paying attention. I wasn't paying attention. I don't feel he spoke clearly. This dude installed something $800 later. I go, what? No. There was no $800 thing. But to be fair, I didn't have anything to read. It was just, there was nothing, no form to sign. But reading over a sales sheet or reading over the features of the benefits or whatever, and asking questions too, right? Let's get into this bench press again. All in all, this looks pretty good. Let's get our snippet going. Oh, jack that up. Bam. All right, let's look down here. Zoom this in. Oh. A little more square.
Welcome to the wild.
All right.
Hear the crunch of the four-wheel
So,
drive. The gentle
one thing I would work on is maybe bringing your elbows a little more down this direction.
your window to the wild.
It's not wrong to have your hands up in this position, depending on where you're wanting to work. Right? But bringing the arms a little lower will get a little more broad of the chest. Other thing I'd be more interested in is maybe having the elbows stop about here. All right, so about in line with the shoulder. Is again not wrong to go down here. That elbow tilt too. It's not wrong to go down here. It's just you're going to invite more shoulder activation. And so when we press, it's going to be a lot of shoulder strain until we get about here, right? Until that elbow's in line with the shoulder. Once we get to that position, the chest will be taking over. And not wrong. However, if we're working for chest development or if we're working for stressing the chest, we want to stop where the chest feels the greatest amount of stretch and still can be squeezed and contracted, right? And we get to a point where chest really kind of disengages, if you want to think of it that way, and then it catches back up once we get to that certain position. Other kind of thing, again, I'm kind of drawn here is this. I think I said it wrong. I mean, bringing the arms down towards the hips are going to be decent, but it's more about this idea of this elbow tilt now that I'm looking back at it. And I feel this is where a lot of people get this wrong. I feel I do this from time to time. We see this part of our forearm and we try to keep that part of our forearm straight. But what this does really though is it puts the other side of our arm at an angle. And so working on trying to let the back of the arm look more straight up and down, which then kind of makes the inside of our arm look like an angle, right? But by doing that, this is really inviting more external rotation of our shoulder, which puts the shoulder in a more stable position, Thus, we're going to push from a more stable position, build better strength. Now we can talk a little bit about the seat here. The angle of the bench is fine, whatever. One of the things I like to do is making sure, again, knees and thighs are held together, holding my feet and thighs together, and then even working this idea of hovering my feet off the ground or picking my feet up off the ground, depending on what the setup is. And this really will engage our core a lot more and keeps all that active. Try to get pause here at the top. Get one more. There it is. This is another classic. Let's call it newbie, beginner, error, mistake. Maybe it's a little hard to see here, but we got all this space between our shoulders and the weights, or between the shoulders and the bench. Does this get a bigger squeeze and contraction? Yes, you do get a big squeeze and contraction. However, it's at the cost of stability. So we want to be, again, creating stability in the joints at all time and setting, let's call them soft boundaries versus hard boundaries of just the length of tissue. So we want to have a soft boundary created where we're pressing our shoulders down into the bench or floor, and we're keeping our shoulders depressed away from our ears. And so just by visualizing that, right, if we can just see that, like, the seam of her shirt just is closer to the bench, the weights aren't going to go up as high. People are easy to explain. Let's say lose apple 20 cents per apple. People, oh, that's cheap. But if you read the small print, 2 pounds will cost you, like, I don't know, $2. But right next to it is a whole bag of apples, 2.5 for $1.50. What will they buy? You know, you say that too, and that makes me think of the other thing is grocery stores or drugstores. They'll put like candy or other things on sale, like buy 2 for $1.50 or buy 2 for $3. The one piece is like $2. And to your point, you could buy the $2. You could buy 2 packages of it for $3. But it's like, do you even need the fucking 2 packages of the candy? I'm sure you can make the argument you don't need the candy, period. But those little games where they make you spend more without you even realizing you're spending more. That's a good example, though. You know, it reminds me too of my pops. Growing up, his parents would send him to the grocery store with like a $5 bill or a $10 bill. That's how old he is. That's how much he could use to go buy groceries for the family. But he was allowed to keep the change. So that motherfucker, he was like you, he'd check all the numbers, he'd run the calculations, figure out what was the cheapest price per ounce on stuff. Even to this day, this man got plenty of money to retire and not worry about a damn thing. He still shops by price per ounce, penny per ounce. But, you know, those are the things that make us right. Yeah, this lady, we see again this reaching of the shoulders. So if we keep the shoulders down and away, this will also help us keep those elbows rotated inward. And that would be the big thing to clean up. So the overreaching, so to speak, on the press, number 1. Number 2 is, again, working on pausing, maybe about there. That would be the spot I would have her. If I was coaching her, I would be stopping right here. And then having her, again, press from this position. Now, if it's delts that she's wanting to work on, yeah, go for it, Palito. Always. Do I work out as well? I do work out, just not on Twitch. So my physical activity routine would be, in a perfect world, is I participate in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I do that about 3 to 5 days a week. And then I try to get about 2 lifting days for myself that are about 60 to 90 minute sessions. And then when I'm with clients and whatnot, not that I'm doing a lot of exercises, but no, I ain't no black belt, brother. I'm a lowly blue belt. I think back here in the dog cam, you can see my white belt over there in the corner.
And you couldn't find your debit card.
Nope.
But you're gonna get
But
cash.
no, not a black belt. Far from it.
Bank Live Teller has extended hours, and I can get cash
And that's
in my
okay.
account with my driver's license.
My
Try to be a black belt in movement.
Nope.
With over 300 live teller locations with extended hours, there's opportunity here. Find a
I don't know, man.
near you
Just a
at
white belt, just a blue belt, I mean.
/live teller. Equal opportunity lender, member FDIC.
Let me chat this person's name down. Baylistic. LLIS. But no, a lot of it too is just being active and moving around. And so, to me, I play little mind games. Even when I'm like carrying groceries from to and from the car or something like that, I try to make those as, you know, checking on shoulder position and being rigid on those, treating it like a farmer's carry of some sort. You're so good, your belt looks like a rainbow. Oh, Palito. This guy. Baylistic. Overall, I'll give you, I think we're gonna say a 7 out of 10. I'm really impressed with going lightweight or moderate weight before going heavier. Very smart. I think the biggest thing is going to be, again, finding the bottom about right there, not going too deep. And then the other side of that coin is not overreaching. Lightweight, baby. You know, there'll be some, you know, to that point, Palito, right? Like, there are people that will coach like a row and they want you to use heavier weights. So that way you access your lats more, that you use your pulling muscles more. And there is some truth into that, right? If you overload the arms, like you'll just naturally not use your arms to pull and your back will naturally kind of take over. I'd venture thinking of it in the other way of, can you get it to work by command? Can you choose and get this kind of sense of a lat squeeze with no load? Right, because then we're showing real mastery of our movements, of our body control. You don't necessarily have to be able to do like the Venice, like pec dances and all that kind of a thing, but to be able to like elect to feel your chest work without load, or to be able to kind of sense your delts working when you lift your arm, or feel your bicep squeeze. I think those are really important. And to be able to generate that on command, so to speak, is a true, I think, indication of just general joint health and vitality. Maybe that's not right, but I think you're just you have a better overall sense of your being or your body in space, and that just is always going to be beneficial, right? You're walking around and you trip or something, you know, you can feel your feet in space, know how to fall, so to speak. I don't know. Not popular. We don't want popular. Fuck popular. Go back. Cute cat. All right. Where was our peoples? There's that guy and this lady. All right, let's get this one. Overhead press. We don't get a lot of overhead pressing. So much on squats and deadlifts, which I get. So the first thing I'm going to say on this overhead press is always be facing the hooks. Always be facing the hooks. Whether it's a squat or a deadlift. I mean, a squat or a deadlift. Well, I guess it'd be a deadlift, but always facing the hooks. All right, buddy. It was short and it was funny, but sadly, I got to go to work now. Well, go sell people what they need. or maybe what they want. Have a good day, Palito. Thank you for stopping by. It was a pleasure. Yeah, so right here, as this guy's putting this weight up, that is why we want to be facing it. Thank you, thank you. But yeah, if we noticed here, as they're racking this weight, we have this startled look of, oh god, am I gonna fucking make it? So, first and foremost, turn around. All right, so let's see what he says here. Looking for feedback on the press. One thing was, after pressing, I felt a bit of strain in my left shoulder, which could have been connected to my forearm. It faded quickly, so I'm not certain about how significant it is. Well, chemical gas, 1414. When we say strain in the left shoulder, where in the left shoulder, and how, like, what do we mean by strain? First off, like, are we talking front of the shoulder? Are we talking the side of the shoulder? Are we talking the back of the shoulder? Are we talking the top of the shoulder? Are we talking kind of the top back, the top front? And the reason why we want to know is, depending on where it is, tells us a more complete story. Well, let's see what we get from just watching and with this information. So he says the left side, so the far side is where we have issues or felt some strain. So just off the jump, let's look at the difference in the wrists and the elbow positions. So from the jump, right, we can see here, this looks a little more of a neutral grip, whereas this one looks more broken back. We're looking at it, we were talking about the forearms earlier for the chest press. Right here, this forearm looks more vertical, whereas this one looks a little more behind him. Right, judging by this elbow, this elbow looks to be barely in front of his chest, whereas this elbow looks to be maybe an inch or two in front of his chest, kind of a deal. Could be the angle. Maybe it's just the angle. But that kind of is an indication that we're getting better external rotation on his right shoulder, not as good of an external rotation on the left shoulder, which could indicate reasons of the strain that he's explaining. Let's see what else we got.
Hey y'all, this is singer-songwriter Riley Green.
Yeah.
And my idea of a good time is grabbing a guitar, a few good friends, and some
right
cold,
there.
Smooth Busch Lights. Pick up a case if you're on this weekend. No guitar needed.
Enjoy now.
2024 Anheuser-Busch Busch Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome to the wild.
So right here again, now this arm has disappeared. The elbow has disappeared behind his body. Right? And so as this is what's happening for us. We're not able to keep the shoulder sitting back in that good front rack position. And that's the problem. Right? And so that is the strain. So I'm not sure where he's having it, but it probably is in the back of the shoulder we're having the pain. But so what do we do about this? For a couple of things I would say is, first, don't go as deep. Right? Keep the pressure on the delt. So if we come about right there, that's not a bad spot to end. That's going to keep your delt in tension the whole time. You could come maybe about right there too. But again, the lower we get, the more that the delt is just going to turn off. And we're no longer really getting that front delt to have to do the job anymore. Now in this position, there's a couple of things we're noticing. I'm noticing. Maybe we are noticing it. I don't know. So again, we can see again the little blurry, but again, I feel this hand is again more falling backwards. We can again definitely see how this arm is more lateral to his body, where this arm is more in front of his body. All right, so we want more of the right arm, less of the left arm. Now, in this, we can, a couple of cues he could work on, right? Is any of these is going to be, again, pressing the shoulders down, not fighting this urge to shrug. We'll look at that a little bit more at the top of the press here in a moment. The other thing I'm seeing a lot is an excessive sway to the back. And well, even at the knees, I feel like the knees are kind of locking out. And then this causes the pelvis to have to spill forward, and then we create this arch to the back, and we see it more on the up. But stopping here and then really again making sure you get this elbow rotating in, and only press as high as you can keep your shoulders down and that elbow rotated in. Well, both elbows technically, but for this individual, I would focus really just on their mind being focused on that left elbow. And so right here again at the top, we see more of those compensations present. All right, so again, we've kind of getting a little bit of a spill forward of the hips. But looking at the arm, we see this elbow pit facing us, which again is showing that elbow is internally, or the shoulder is internally rotating. We can't see this athlete from the front, but we're likely collapsing in the shoulders or collapsing in the neck and the throat. So working on again keeping the shoulders pressing down even at this position. Working on creating some thoracic extension. All right, so this chest, but keeping the tension in the belly still. Right, and that's always the challenge of overhead pressing, right? Because we want to keep our pelvis drawn in from the stomach, right? This sense of tucking the tailbone from our stomach, not allowing our pelvis to spill forward. But when we're drawing into here, this naturally will create a collapsing of the chest. Right? Well, going again like the cat cow. So we go into the scaredy cat. Then as we press up, we have to create length into these abs. And when we have a wound up shoulder that's not allowing good freedom or movement, this will cause restriction, right? And then we'll have to let go of our stomach to create these things. We can even kind of see this left knee looks a little more locked out than the right knee. All again, kind of this effort to get that bar up overhead. So yeah, things I would focus on this athlete, right, is a hip. I always go to the dowel hinges. Dowel hinges would be fine for them, but something a little more better maybe is working first some shoulder stuff. What up, D-Gen? Yeah, I stopped by the other night. You were playing some slots game. Day 3. Well, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you sliding in, man. But yeah, for this athlete, I would focus on. We need to do some shoulder mechanics. Don't gamble, even if it's free gambling, huh? So on the left shoulder, things may benefit this individual doing something like a hollow body with a yoga ball. So something lightweight that will roughly approximate the width of their hands on this overhead press. Laying again in that supine position, using the floor to help us with our spine alignment. And so draw into your navel, feel your low back pressing to the floor. And you can walk your feet away from your body as much as you can to an extended hip position, keeping all that nice and tight. Feet and thighs still together. Lift your toes up towards your knees or towards the ceiling. Will help you lengthen into your legs a little further. But again, if you feel your low back having to arch up, or you start feeling achiness in the low back, bring the feet a little closer in. With a yoga ball in hand, or it could be, just something, it could be a dowel, it could be a broomstick. If you have a yoga ball, that'd be ideal. Squeezing that on the widest ends of it, and then taking it overhead and checking yourself. When do your elbows start rotating out? Specifically, this left elbow for this athlete. keeping both elbows rotated in as we take it overhead. And we may start feeling a stretch sense or an agony going through the ribs and the underarm.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news.
And just like we were talking for the other person with the hip hinges equivalent oil, going into that for a couple of minutes, you can do some light pulses of in and out, making sure we drive only through our shoulder and we're not rotating outwards with the elbow. It's going to be real important we pay attention to those things, as the compensation pattern will be really quick to take over, especially as we get tired or distracted. If we're tired and distracted, we're fucked. But taking that ball, going into that position, head, shoulders, low back, pelvis, all staying flat on the ground, and then working that again for about 60 seconds, 2 minutes if you can. From there, I'd encourage holding the ball in front of you and then work on front raises, where you feel those delts really cooking. You could do some things like external rotations after that as well, but I would just try those two, then start off with maybe lighter weight, just the bar, and see how your presses feel. I would also face the rack again. Don't ever face out with the hooks. Always be to where, again, if you ever have an issue, you can always fall into the rack, or you can try to drop the weight into the rack. And if you were to keep going backwards here for whatever reason, he's got this post behind him that's going to be a trip hazard. Sure, the bar may not fall on top of him, but it's just not a great way to approach that. Overall, I'd give this individual maybe like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I work on, again, stopping about right there to where we're about 90 degrees at the armpit. And similar to the chest press, the incline presser we saw, only going so high as we can keep our shoulders depressed. I guess he's actually looking pretty good in that regards. Now I'm focused a little more. We'll give him, again, the 6.5, 7 out of 10 here. The rack setup gets me a little perplexed. Again, good call on stopping when we felt the discomfort and the pain. I'm glad it went away, but it's going to be prevalent. I'm sure if we went through and checked on more of this guy's stuff, we'd probably find more instances of this shoulder, whether it's a forward tilt. Looks like it's a forward tilt issue. And that's why I like the pullovers there. Let's see, did I write your name down, guy? Chemical gas. Got you down, man. Good work on the overhead press. Keep wielding it. Overhead press, man, is a tough one. Big Bowser, big brain burrito. What is going on? Is that an overhead press emoji? I like it. How are we doing today? A big brain burrito. What's been your big brain move for the day or the week? He said, come in here. Says having a burrito. Oh, same guy with the squats. So yeah, let's look at the squat here. Again, we're doing the same thing. I don't know if it's for the camera, but we're not facing the rack. Face the rack on all of this stuff. So what's the best kind of burrito then? Big burrito? Oh, I guess a bean burrito, huh? But is it purely beans? Is there onions and cheese? We get a little taco sauce. What makes the big bean burrito the best big bean burrito? As we're looking at setup for this person, you can see again this left shoulder is kind of flaring out. His hand is a lot further away from the left side than it is on the right. So that'd be, again, one of those little things. When we have these little asymmetries, taking note of them, and not that we need to necessarily find the solution in that moment, but taking note of them and trying to work towards having more balance. Even if it's just pulling that arm, if it's pulling the hand in and we go, oh shit, man, my shoulder just feels cranked right there. Those are going to be indications, again, that something's not right, and that's going to garner some attention. Again, for this athlete, if they can't get their shoulder in a good position for this squat, they'd be better off going into front rack squats, or not front rack squats. Front rack squats would be the death of this guy right now. Goblet squats. Front rack squats would be tough on this individual just because they don't have the mobility right now. So to put into a front rack position would be, while it would be a great pursuit for this athlete, they're not set up right now with their mechanics in their shoulder to get there. So with that being said, I would focus on, again, going into a goblet squat and then doing mobility exercises around that left shoulder. And then maybe coming in from time to time and practicing your setup. And then progressing from there. It might take about a week or two. Seems like a young guy, so I'll respond pretty quick. Let's go through the squat real quick, and then we'll move on to somebody else. Bar seems high. Seems like he's probably saying something about the left side being different. I would go... Always weird not to have a bar to explain this. You're not going to sit on any bony prominence, but we want to pinch our shoulder blades and slide under the bar. And the bar is going to be somewhere below that shoulder, just above that, your shoulder blades, not on your traps, not on your neck. You can kind of wedge it in. Now, it's a light bar for this guy too, so we notice he's just kind of standing up, and it's easy enough to, with the arms and whatever it's sitting on his back, to be able to maintain it. We want to have a little hip hinge when we're under the bar. All right, and so again, we take it back to the setup, get your hand placement. And so this bar is actually too high for him. We probably need to bring the hooks down one or two. And so that way we have to stand up in the bar from a hip hinge kind of a deal. Whereas that, he kind of just rolled it off the edge. Now let's see the squat. That's good. Squat looks decent, and probably a little externally rotated. Box squats would be good for this individual. Little knock knees, that's okay. So this guy, you need box squats, chemical gas. Get a chair behind you, a box behind you, one of these benches around. And see, again, we come to the same issue here. Because the rack's behind you, you can't see where you're going, and you're having to back up into it. I mean, good on you for using just the bar, not overloading. Squat, honestly, your squat looks pretty good, brother. Like we've been telling everybody, the cat-cow idea, that stomach in, making sure that stays tight. That will limit your ranges as well, and how deep you're able to go. And then you can put a chair or a box behind you, just so you have that safety sense, if you will. And if you fall back, you have the chair or the box to fall into. But it looked good. It looked good. I would just, you got to keep building. All right. Yo Prado. Deadlift check. Am I using too much of my back? Any cues to help with this? Whoa. We don't want all that. Nope. Sorry, Imgur. I ain't leaving Reddit, man. Squat check. 110 kilograms. Not great. That's kind of a jerk thing to say right off the cuff, but the first thing we see on that squat is so this is way too much weight for this individual from the jump. Because we're already in a compensated position just on the setup. So if we just imagine the spine here, all right, we have our shoulders approximately here, and he has his hips here, and we kind of see the roundness there a bit. I mean, I know he's wearing a hoodie, hides a lot, but I feel like we're already kind of collapsing the stomach. The other thing we're noticing here is the head's really far forward, which again, I know the bar being there can cause us to feel like we got to jut our head forward, but doesn't mean we shouldn't try to get our ears back over the shoulders some. We go into the lower body, right? Again, it looks like he has kind of a neutral pelvis. And again, he should probably have, arrows. I forgot about the arrows. So again, have a slight hip hinge and a slight lean to the body as we're setting up.
USAA membership is for those who served and can be shared with their spouses, then kids, and their kids for
That's not quite what we got here.
And because our members know USAA,
the other thing we're seeing in the feet
the military community,
look really rotated out,
become a member today,
and they also look to be collapsing inward. So just again, these are indications of compensations that are going to have to happen for him to get this weight back up. And then again, we got the knee slightly bent forward here. You know, I'd like to see the knees a little more over the ankles from your start position. And again, we create the weight displacement by a little hip hinge. So that way our glutes and our hamstrings are taking the start of the load and not our quads. So, in 110 kilograms, so we're talking about a little over 220 pounds. In freedom units. Not a good weight, not looking good from the go. Now, you see that bar path does rocking forward. That first one was decent. We're rocking forward every rep. Looks like we're just doing 2 or 3, so that's good. We're not going wild with the rep count. So for this guy, I would say about right there. Right about there is where your squat should stop. It's not that you couldn't get deeper with practice and mobility work, but right about there to me is about where you should stop. We start getting lower. That's where again we see everything really having to shift forward. Come back to me. Now, where does the bar start shifting forward, right? That's where we start seeing the bar moving forward. So that's where our compensation is beginning. Straight down, we go forward, and you get it back up, and then it goes straight back. Or you kind of have like a little Tetris piece kind of motion. Now we see that there, that last one, whether or not it was meant to be the last rep. I'm glad to see you stopped on that rep. Let's stop you there. Let me get my little snippet tool back out. Wow. Earlier, for another athlete, we were talking about the center of the foot. All right, we want this bar path to be as over the center of the foot as we can. That's looking pretty decent there. Now, probably be a little, well, we'll call it good there. Now, as this bar gets lower, we'll see that the bar shifts forward. And then what we also will notice is the heels have to lift up as the knees come further forward, because we're really not getting more hip hinge happening. We were talking about the feet earlier. We kind of see this left foot also is just really hard collapsing inwards. So about here is where you're able to keep the bar in this neutral plane over the midfoot. But after that, we've rocked forward. All right, so now if we look at this line, all right, that relatively straight line is now over your toes, whereas before we were about 2 or 3 inches further back. So it's just indicating that lateral shift, or that anterior shift occurred. Again, we see even more deformation in this left foot. We can also see it in the same thing occurring in this right foot. And so this left knee for sure is caving in based on the what we're seeing on this ankle. Potentially this right knee is caving in as well. What I'm seeing more is in that heel lift. And in this position, things look decent. We can't really see with the sweater. And so maybe we're keeping this in decent position, but we're still having to compensate. We're lacking ankle mobility potentially, as well as glute strength to maintain down in this deep hole of a squat. Even with the weight trying to push them down into it, right? So as we come up again, he goes up straight for a while, and then we get it back over. Constant rock forward. So for this guy, again, I would go lighter weight. I mean, decent mechanics all in all, but we got some born-in compensations. And I really don't like how this looks. I know it's not all about what things look like, but again, this just isn't a good setup to me. We don't see how he gets in the bar, right? He's already got the bar on his back when he starts. But get under the bar before you even lift it up. Go through that cat-cow motion, that drawing into the navel and lengthen into your abs. Then stand up with the bar. Get a little lift up and out of the hooks. And so this, again, will put a lot of length into the stomach. Keep your back in tension as it needs to be. That all creates stability for your spine and hips. So that way you can hinge into the glutes and get the knees to bend to lower yourself down. And then press straight back up into that start position. And on any squatting, make sure we're inhaling on the way down, exhale on the way up. Notice we got like a little fish cheeks going on here. I know it's tough and it's heavy, so I get it. Still trying to have that mind, like be the trumpet player, like with tight cheeks, not I forget the famous jazz player with the big balloon cheeks. Make sure we're exhaling on the way up. Inhale, 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 exhale. So this is another athlete that would benefit from box squats, I think. So first and foremost is going to be going back into your hip hinge. This is another athlete that would benefit greatly from the dowel hinges and a forward bend with an externally supported surface.
Stylish eyewear. It's time to experience
like
the
squat rack here, being excellent. Put your hands on the little safety bar there, and then just hip hinge without any load on you. Working to feel a stretch in the glutes and the hamstrings while maintaining that cat-cow sense through the core. Dowel hinges would be great. You could even practice a dowel hinge with just EVC on the shoulders. This guy's going to likely feel a lot of stress across the chest. And there's not a lot of athletes, I don't think, who wouldn't feel a lot of stretch across the chest. And we didn't talk too much about it for him. We do see a little bit of the elbows flaring back this way. And trying to get as much of that elbow tilt forward from the shoulders, right? That external rotation of the shoulder. Got this guy's name now. In 110, he's got decent control over it. The foot position really has me worried for the well-being of his knees. I guess the more I watch it, the less terrible I think it is, but it's got a lot for us to improve on, I feel. Just this initial posture really has me concerned. But I think, again, if we go into it we treat it as a cat-cow from the bar setup, once the bar's on the rack, go through a cat-cow, I think that'll clean up a lot for you. Go with, again, just the bar, and then just step back up to your weight. And we really need to, again, really work that hip hinge. Again, you're going to have to really work to sit yourself back. So just like a lot of the athletes we've already seen, I think a forward bend will do wonders for you. Feet and thighs together, it's going to help you work your adductors, your inner thigh muscles, which everybody needs more work. It's part of the reason we got the rotation going on with the feet. It'll help lengthen into your external rotators of your hips, so your glutes and hamstrings. That'll help develop length back there, such that you can get your hips back. This also goes and will help tie into your core, right? And so again, accessing those lower abdominals and thinking that cat-cow again to help, again, train those muscles under tension, but also in those different positions. When you get into that hip hinge, your core muscles have to work differently, so to speak, or they're working at different angles. So being familiar with them and being tight with them. If you're holding into all that, there's gonna be a motherfucker to breathe. Like, I hate using that as the guiding light. That's the case when we're engaging our cores and we're not used to it. Practicing that hip hinge or the forward bends with the engaged core, then doing some movement-based practice. Thinking, again, dowel hinges, working, again, just feeling when dowel squats, just getting the sense of how to move about your hips with that lengthened spine or that engaged core. From there, I would go to your bar, but again, half this weight, quarter of this weight only, and then have a box behind you. Go with a box squat and working on reaching your hips back and bending at the knees to lower yourself. We had one athlete earlier, he was saying he was tall, right? And so with the for something like squats, you get a lot of people that are real zealous about keeping your knees behind the toes. And the reason we care about keeping the knees behind the toes at the bottom is this kind of stuff. Right? We want to keep the knees behind the toes so that way our heels are staying flat. There's only so much space the knee can go, right? If our heel is flat, that's really going to reduce how far forward the knees will go. And a common landmark for a lot of people will be over the toes. Now, we get the sense that we got to drive the knees over the toes, or that it's okay to drive the knees over the toes. Well, then that becomes a different parameter now. So keeping your heels flat, that whole foot engaged, allowing the knees to go forward as far as they can, but not at the expense that we start lifting up at our heels. Right? And if we start sensing like, hey, my heels have to come up to get my knees further forward, well, then that's that right now. That's where you are. Whether it's maybe you're at the end of your squat and you're at your ass to grass squat, or maybe you have tight calves and maybe some brevity in your quads. Maybe there's some other mobility issues going on that's preventing you from getting there. And so that's what I would focus on. So box squats, again, really help kind of put everything together, and then maybe taking 2 or 3 weeks of doing something like 3 to 4 sets of 15 to 20 unloaded squats, really working on and being down in that bottom position, sensing your whole foot engaged, not rocking forward, not rocking back, and just being on this line up and down. Glad Blade, we got you down. Worried Extension 23. First month squatting. I've been on my gym journey for about 4 years, but only started squatting seriously for a month. I'm horribly inflexible, so I take a wide stance and splay my feet outwards. Don't mind even niche critiques on my form. Much appreciated, internet strangers. All right. Dogs are riled up. Dogs are really riled up.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max. The best in entertainment for just $16.99 a month. Check out Star Wars Andor Season 2 on Disney Plus.
We're in a war. You want to fight?
HBO Original, The Last of Us Season 2 on Max.
What did you do?
I saved her.
And the final season of The
All
Handmaid's
right,
Tale
let's get
on
back into
Hulu.
this squat. Got the dogs calm down a bit.
The ultimate bundle for an unbelievable price. The Disney Plus Hulu Max bundle.
So we got a lot of things we're seeing here. We're gonna try to nitpick to death.
DisneyPlus.com for details.
So on the setup here, we're seeing, again, he's already noted his inflexibility. To me, that's always a red flag. It's not a red flag that you're inflexible, but it's, I would not be adding weight onto my lifts until my mobilities were cleaned up. Because by adding weights to the bar or to the body, all we're doing is we're training our body's compensations. Because there's no way for you not to train the compensation in that regard. So again, setting up here, I feel the bar is a little too high. Something outside has got my dogs all riled up. Hang tight, y'all, sorry. All right, where were we? Tearing apart this young person's squat. So before they get into the rack, or when they're getting out of the rack again, I think the bar feels too high to me. I know there's different variations, but I would really encourage maybe a little bit lower of a squat bar, a bar on the squat, lower position of the bar in his squat. I'd also again work on getting these elbows to tilt more forward. Now, we were talking about the young man earlier who was squatting just the empty bar. You need to get more hip hinge. I think this is the same issue for this gentleman. Right, we get a little more hip hinge. Not a lot. Doesn't need to be a big hip hinge, right? We're not doing a good morning necessarily. But this hip hinge will, again, allow your chest to be slightly more forward, thus giving a better surface for that bar to rest on. Again, tilting the elbows forward is just going to put your shoulders in a better position, giving them it just to help promote overall shoulder health. I want to also, again, highlight that sense of getting that cat-cow, drawing that navel in and extending into our spine, right? So that way we have rigidness on both sides of our spine via muscular tension. So that foot position here, right? Again, he highlights and he goes, I know I have it. I know I do it. There's going to be another one of those moments where we're not. Right? Limit how much you rotate your feet out. Try to think of parallel lines and having your inseams roughly parallel to each other. You might get yourself about a 10, 12 degree rotation. So that way those inseams are parallel. Right? It's kind of like the forearm thing, right? We're trying to have the backs of the forearms parallel, not the inside of the forearms. On your feet, that slight rotation just to where we get the inseams. And this is going to invite a lot of compensation patterns. It's going to create a lot of muscular imbalances over time if they're not already present. I mean, I guess technically they are already present because of the need to do it. But more apparent, let's call it. We're not able to see the lateral view. But Be interesting to see how well we're able to keep that bar path over the one part of our foot. Now, again, as we're looking down here, I feel we're getting some knee collapse. Strong dude. Strong person. You know, for not having any formal training and despite the compensations, it's pretty decent squat, I feel. But I don't know that's going to be a lasting endeavor. So why do I think it's a good squat? For the most part, it feels like the bar is going up and down. There is some butt wink we see at the bottom. The shoulders, again, I don't love the shoulder position and the elbows. But for the most part, the body's moving as one. We do see where the hips kind of shoot up some. There's a little rocking. Yeah, we got safeties, we got collar ties. Not terrible, not terrible. So we're looking for places to improve though. Again, this person, if I was just working with them, first we'd put their pocket in, put the pocket back in. But serious note would be stripping the bar down, empty the bar, just the bar, getting a good position of it on the shoulders. And if we can't get a good position of it on the shoulders, we're going to work on doing some pec work and anterior work on the chest. So that way we can create a little bit more space and length on the front side. So that way we can be tight in the upper back. We're going to work on getting some core engagement. So again, the dowel hinges would be excellent. FTCs, dead bugs, so feet to the ceiling would be excellent. And then this guy would also greatly benefit from the forward bend. So feet and thighs together and working on a good hip hinge motion. Kind of redundant in what we're offering here, but kind of seeing a lot of the same things for these people. Yeah, in the way in, I do feel like the knees are squeezing in slightly. It's hard to see from this angle. About right there, we see like the knees kind of going in. And part of it too is this position of the foot almost beckons that he's going to have these valgus knees, these knock knees. Why do we care about the knees, knock knees? Our knees are like a hinge, you know, like a door hinge. They only swing really one way or the other. And so when our knees start caving in, right, there's only so much squeeze that they're going to be able to maintain and then still be able to move appropriately. So this is going to eventually call for some sort of we can get all kinds of inflammation within the knee. We can get all kinds of cartilage damage, ligament tendon issues, joint capsule issues, any of the tendinitises, tendinosises, all of this stuff is going to come from these kind of compensations. So if you are going to elect to keep your foot this wide, you're going to have to really drive your knees wide and keeping your knees over that toe, over that second and third toe as it does track. Right, and then depending on where this imbalance originates for him, it might end up creating a lot of tension on his inner thighs. It may be real hard for him to keep the knees wide without feeling a big stretch or strain in that groin. So, if I was working with this athlete, we're stripping the bar down, we're getting comfortable with the bar in a lower position. We're going to work on squaring the toes up a little bit, but at the same time, working on the glutes and external rotators in those lengthened positions, opening those knees big and wide. One exercise that'd probably be tough and yet beneficial for this athlete would be something, I call them Jerry Lewis's. I think more mainstream is referred to as lateral tube walks. So taking a band and putting it about your knees, height of your knees, just above the knees, and then walking laterally both left and right. Some of the caveats for this, for a lateral tube walk would be, first off and foremost, is you're taking tiny itty bitty steps, like The width of this pin is about as wide as I would encourage someone to do as far as a lateral tube walk. Some other things to spice it up, add a little jujus to it, would be rotating the knees in as much as we can and allow the toes to follow. Knees and toes rotate in. But John, that's internally rotated hips, and you always talk about you not internally rotate. No. So there is a time and place where we want internal and external rotation of all of our joints. We want to be able to manifest all movement unloaded. In this case, though, by rotating our knees in, this is going to lengthen the external rotators of our glutes, of our hips. And then when we have to take our lateral step, those lengthened muscles have to now work in a position they're not very used to. Thus, the fun. So if we do those lateral tube walks with our knees and toes rotated in, slight hip hinge, and we want to aim to feel this in what one of my former clients calls the thud, where your thigh meets your butt. Just that little underside of our booties, not the saddlebags, not the lateral portions of our hips, but little where the peach forms, right? That is where we want to try to feel those lateral tube walks. Working again, the bar position and everything is going to be great. Learning how to use the dowel hinge and dowel squats, all great. For these knock knees, I think if he works some of those lateral tube walks, that'll help this person get their feet a little more square, help keep those knees from collapsing in and potentially causing some major knee issues. And then from there, the shoulder stuff will come along with it as well. But to me, it's getting those lateral tube walks and working on getting this lower body looking a little more clean. Because we're getting more and more kind of planched. The more externally rotated we become, the more unstable we're going to just naturally have to be. Looks good. Keep building, man. I think we're still in that kind of 6 to 7 ballpark range. It's not an ugly ego lift. We know about some of our, let's call it, deficiencies. But again, and that's the other thing is, right? Sometimes we feel we have to use these weights, these external weights, to get a workout. I don't know this person. I'm speaking for them without knowing them. But I feel a lot of times is we have this sense that we gotta have weights. That if there's not weights on the bar, or if we're not using some sort of external forces to make ourselves work out, that we're going to be somehow missing, or we're not going to be developing as much as we possibly could. And that couldn't be more further from incorrect. Like, I've had excellent workouts with just a barbell for squat and deadlift. Right? It's learning how to turn these levers and pull these levers and turn these dials to hone in the movement properly. And this guy puts his feet more square, puts a box behind them, works on that good bar position, and then a good hip hinge and knee bend to lower their body towards the box or the bench, and then not rest on it, but just kind of hover there and then press up. It's gonna be a motherfucker of a workout. You're gonna be putting tissues in lengthened positions they're not used to. You're gonna be stressing them in tension for time that they're not wanting to be under tension, right? That is how we develop strength. You'll still get a workout. You'll still develop. You'll still burn calories. Like anything and everything that you're getting from these weights, you're gonna get. Will you be getting a bigger number for a PR? Okay, you get me there, right? Like, but that is something that can still be developed for the long haul, especially if our goal is longevity. If our goal is vitality, of just being able to live life as fully as we can, the weights on the bar don't mean jack shit. Being able to squat 3 plates on a bar does not mean you get to enjoy your summer vacation more. picking up 4 plates on a bar does not mean you have a better Christmas.
Tablet charged.
Right? It is about creating movement in our bodies so that way we can just still enjoy everything as best we can. Putting our bodies in compensating positions to move heavy weights is, to me, potentially sacrificing your future due to injury. I know. Worry-wort me. The sky is falling. All right, let's get back to it. Oh, did I write this guy's name down? Worried Extension 23. Oh, nope, it's a hyphen. All right, we're gonna kick it for about another half hour here. I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick and grab a cup of coffee. I invite you to do the same. If not, we'll be right back, y'all. Hopefully the dogs hang out with you. They don't get worried and run away. Oh, need to hide the clock. There we go. BRB, y'all. We are back. Welcome. Thank y'all for hanging out. Thank you for waiting. Hanging out with us this morning. They decided to be good dogs. Not be chaotic for me today. Right. Go back to the top here. Get a refresh. See what other new form checks we got going on. Switch on over. I guess we'll take this quick moment here. Just say, if you're new to the channel, new to hanging out here, my name's John. Welcome to the channel. We are a health and fitness stream. We focus mostly on exercise mechanics and how to improve and not have injuries or pains during workouts. So we're not here to like replace anything. We're here to just help you get more out of what your workouts are and what you do. So thank you for being here with me. And with that, let's get back into today. We're going through Reddit's form check, checking out people's posts and offering what we see. Are we still in new? How to improve. Entire emphasis. The pull-ups are a tough one. So there's a couple of like, when we say improve, what are we improving? Now for me, again, you're in form check, so you're asking how to improve your technique and your form. So first I feel like this bar might be a little narrow, but I feel like where we would want to put our hands is right where this damn cross thing is. So there's that. I'd invite a supinated grip always on pull-ups. Palms facing towards you. That's more of a preference thing. But for me, the reason why I like that is it helps externally rotate the shoulder, which then puts, again, like we've been talking about, that just puts your shoulder in a healthier position long term if we're able to get there and we don't have any pain. If we get pain with that, then we're gonna have to modify and go maybe to a neutral grip or to a pronated grip, depending on how and what's going on with it. Now, as we see here at the top, or what we'll call the top, I think. I will say it feels like he's able to have his feet on the ground and getting the hand set. So that's good. That's always a good starting point. If we're having troubles with full pull-ups, so I'd invite you to get a box or a chair or something, raise yourself up to where you are able to start your hands at the short position of the lift, where your lats are at their shortest and strongest, and then work on allowing yourself down and then pull up. Versus starting where you're weakest and then pulling. Whatever reason it is. Like, we do every goddamn lift starting from the strongest position. I guess maybe not every lift. Pull-ups and deadlifts, we start in a disadvantageous position. We're at our weakest positions for those lifts. And by virtue that in deadlift, our glutes are very long. In that hip hinge, depending on how much knee bend you have, right, your quads are in a super long position, or lack thereof, your hamstrings are in a long position, right? So either way, we're not in the most mechanically advantageous position to create movement. Pull-ups are the same. We're in this very long position. Difference being is how often do you pull yourself up over something daily versus how often do you pick shit up off the ground, right? Even if it's just your kid's shoes or a dog toy, you're still having to hip hinge, bend at the knees, and pick that fucker up, right? Like, many of us aren't picking crap up off the top shelf all day long. Very rare, very few humans are doing that kind of stuff. Like, maybe someone working in a oil change shop, right, working down in the pit, they have their arms up all day long. They're more likely to, be more accustomed into that position. But even then, that's just an arm up. There is no pull effort really happening. So, all that to be said is we do this lift that we know we're weak at, and we unintentionally go into weak positions to try to perform them. So again, this is where, again, giving yourself the help, the assistance of a stool or a step. Then get your grips, and then lengthen into your lats, and then pull through your lats. Off of that soapbox. So a couple of things here as he puts load into his arms that we see. Get our snippet going. So first off, I'm not sure how much space we have between the wall and ourselves. It doesn't look like a whole lot. So we see this big arch of the back. So I would encourage you, we don't see it in the video, but squeezing and holding your thighs together and let your knees be slightly in front of you. This will help tuck your pelvis underneath you through your stomach more so. And if you do feel any issues with your low back, it will help eliminate them. If you don't feel issues in your low back, well, guess what? You still should do it because it's going to help you develop and strengthen your core. If you're wanting more challenge, right, you can just slowly let the legs go down in front of you, but still have that sense that you're drawing your navel in, pulling your pelvis up. And then you can let the legs sink lower and lower, putting more tension on those lower abdominals and having to keep them there. Now into the actual pull-up effort. I like the broad chest and the lean back. That's all good. Make sure though we're keeping our shoulders depressed. And again, it's hard to do that when we're already up, shoulders into our ears. Notice how I feel. Notice this U-shaped or cupping shape here. To me, I feel again we're collapsing in the chest. So again, this trying to keep your shoulders back and broad and your chest as broad, even on the setup. When the pull begins, you notice how our arms are kind of tapering outward. I encourage this athlete and all athletes doing pull-ups like this to rotate your elbows inward. This will also go to help sitting the shoulders down and away from our ears, so it's a little 2 for 1. One of the biggest disservice to exercises is calling these fuckers chin-ups. I think if this exercise ever had a different name, maybe people would approach them differently. Because they get programmed and called chin-ups, we've developed this perverse concept that our chin has to somehow get over the bar for it to count. And I'm guilty of being this way too in my younger days. Right? We just have this sense that this does something, right? This is making all the difference. This is where our gains are. That it's just some mind fuckery we play with ourselves and we don't realize it. Even to this day, when I'm doing exercises for myself, I find myself doing these little unintentional movements. There you go. So, being broad across the chest at the top, all that's excellent. Keeping those elbows in, that's excellent. Pulling the bar apart, that's excellent. Keep the head back. And if anything, you're really just trying to maybe get above the collarbone. It's about collarbone height, right? To eyeball height. Your elbows to about collarbone. You get a little deeper, great. The hands maybe are in line with your face. That's it. That's the end of the motion. That's the end of the movement. Sure, if you're using some momentum, you might be able to carry yourself up there, but you're not benefiting from that. And then we're starting to see this more altered motions of the rolling of the shoulders over, and we're fatiguing. Notice how we're not going as deep now, because if we go any deeper, he's not going to be able to get up and out. And that's fine. That's exercise. That's why it's progressive overload. So I like that on this last one. Let's see, is this the last one? So he's down on the ground. He doesn't jump. And that's what you see a lot of times. People jump and then pull, which is a method. Sparky's getting impatient. But even though it's not the prettiest, he does his best to make it as clean of a pull as he can. Right, and we hit this stall, and that's fine. And then we get that little kind of compensation effort, but that's what, good exercise is going to look like. Is we're just going to try.
Here's your report.
Right, maybe we go, maybe we don't.
I wish I could hire a whole team of you.
If we can't make it, so be it. Just let that be your last rep. Now,
Unlike
his last rep was a few reps ago,
gives a
but
real-time
that
view into a candidate's skills,
idea
experiences,
is good.
and more.
That's
let's
that
do
sense
it.
of
You're
trying
irreplaceable, Jane,
till
but
the end.
another you
I like.
would be great.
We just got to clean up some other spots, and then we can keep that effort.
Job at LinkedIn.com
And then we
/qualify.
just want to call this attention here, right? Like, where's his neck?
Terms and conditions apply.
His neck has disappeared. So, in the vein of trying until we just can't try anymore, squeeze until we can't squeeze anymore, make sure we're squeezing the appropriate areas, right? Right now, he's getting a lot of upper trap involvement, this shrugging stuff, even maybe some trying to pull through the chest. But get into that sense of where you're stalled, but you're stalled because you just won't let any other muscles contribute other than the ones you're trying to train. So to improve this one for this guy, again, if you don't have bands would be a good option, or an assisted pull-up machine would be an excellent option. If those aren't available to you, you could work negatives. Negatives would be brilliant for this individual. Working on the technique and the form. If negative, you don't have a chair or something to help you get up to the top and work your negatives, then working something just lat pull downs. Having a lat pull down machine would be excellent if that's available. Cable machine of some sort where you can work on a pull down with what's nice about the lat pull downs is you could still maybe do a kneeling lat pull down if you wanted to get the extended hip feel, but even if it's from the flexed hip position, you're still going to get a good the opportunity to work your elbows tilting forward, keeping those shoulders depressed, and then allowing that weight to pull you up without you shrugging. And it's going to be less than it'll be sub body weight. So again, it'll allow you to practice this without being over challenged. And to the point of compensation. So those would be the things I would focus on for this individual. We were talking earlier about hollow body with a yoga ball. That would be another option for them as well, just to work on mobility. It'd be interesting to kind of see them with their arrested posture as well, just to kind of see how their carriage tilts, because that would also help identify potential compensations or movement imbalances. But from this view, it just seems like we're over challenged. We got too much load. We got to regress our load, lower weight, lower intensity, maybe not weight, but lower intensity and working on the technique. And that would be the entire emphasis. Not eraser mode. 4, 3, 6. All right, let's get a few more in this morning. We got time. Another deadlift check. All right, well, we'll see if this guy lasts, because anytime there's pain, man, they come out and crucify him. So I have mild hip pain for like a month. 2 weeks ago doing deadlift, it hurt like hell doing it, so I had to stop. I still have hip pain that I'm trying to fix. I don't know what caused it, but I don't know what caused it, but I feel good doing deadlifts. Your form looks pretty good. Obviously nothing wrong other than the mandatory bad shoes for deadlift. Always bitching about shoes. A slight overextension at the top. So we'll talk about hip. I want to watch this, and then we'll talk about hip pain. Potential hip pain. Right? Again, this is like the guy who had his shoulder issues. Like where in the shoulder? It's going to take 1,000 questions, and a lot of the questions will probably be answered with a no. But once we start getting a yes, that starts slicing off possibilities. And so as the more we can zone in on potential culprits, whether it be a movement issue or a specific muscle not working properly, we can start eliminating all the things that it can't be, shows us what it will be. So all that to be said, we'll talk about hip pain after this. Let's see this technique. Let's see this form. So some of these I feel we have kind of like a two-stepper, two motions occurring. And sometimes I feel like we got not the worst deadlift. You know, we're gonna probably put it in that like 6-7 ballpark, especially since he's saying he's got pain. So let's see what we can see here. So he's setting up, got both double overhands. That's great. So on the jump, it looks to me we're kind of squatting. Right here kind of looks deadliftish, but then our hips drop almost below our knee crease. And then you're more of squatting the bar up here, my guy. Not the end of the world. I mean, it's not bad. It's a different movement. And that's why we get to this point where your knees are kind of in the way. And then you got to pull your knees back and then you lift up. And then on the way down, it looks like we get knees bending first before our hip hinge. So while people are going to dog on you about your shoes, I'd be more focused on keeping your hips going back, weight in your heels. This is actually almost like the first lifter we watched this morning. Right about there. Let's pause here.
Spring into savings during Blinds.com.
Spring into savings.
Happening now. Freshen up your home with brand new custom window treatments.
Yes, I know I could do something about it, but
Blinds.com makes upgrading your window treatments easy with
I'm not a
virtual consultations.
I'm not affiliate on Twitch yet, so I don't have affiliate money.
Installation services. Plus, you always get Blinds.com's 100%
Once we start making affiliate money, we'll pay for not having commercials.
Save up to 50% site-wide, plus a free professional measure.
So as we're sitting here,
rules and restrictions may apply.
I feel the knees are too far forward. What I would encourage this athlete to do is work on sitting back more. So that way, again, they feel the weight in their heels. I still want them to have their toes flat. I guess their toes are right there. So his heels are going to be more like right here. All right, but having a flat foot with our weight in the heel. But by pushing, and I have said this wrong, it's not even hips back. It is hips up. I keep saying that. The hips, press your hips up such that your knees pull back. And this will put some tension on this backside here. We're not going to get for the Romanian style. So if you're familiar with that, that's going to be where your knees are over your ankles. And the bar likely isn't touching the ground. Right? That's not what we're going for, but we're going close to it, right? Instead of it being stacked right there, again, it may be just ever so slightly out in front. Your knee slightly out in front. Now, that being said, right, the bar should still be, really close into you as you're pressing, which that looks to be decent with you. Ish. Now, moving to the upper body, right? If we get the hips back a little more, they will get the hips back, but as we get the hips up a little more, that's going to get us a little more parallel, which is good. We can get a little bit of that thoracic extension. That's all fine and dandy. But what I'd be more interested again is that pressing the shoulders down to the sides of the ribs and the rotation of these elbows in. Very common cue, but this is breaking the bar, putting that tension in the whole upper body. From there, with all that locked, pressing straight into the ground, and as you drive into the ground, you shouldn't have to have this little hitch. I call it a hitch. To me, it's this, again, the knees are kind of in your way. So you straighten your knees, but notice how our body's not moving. It's just the knees go back and then the hips lift up. It really needs to be all one motion. And so, as you go down, right, we see this right here. We're way into our toes, not back into the heels. While I was confusing the two cues earlier, at this point, right, we really need to be getting our weight back, keeping this down. Trying to lengthen into those glutes, stretch out into those glutes. Now, this is causing hip pains or something of that nature, right? That matters. That's how we slice off things. We also, again, talking about the shoulders, trying to keep as broad across the collarbone as we can. I guess I just closed it. And so the bar is a little out in front of you, I feel. And so again, pulling all that stuff back will go a long ways into cleaning some of this stuff up. Now let's talk about the hip pain. Let me bring up my paint. So if we think, just want to know where my boundaries were. There we go. All right. So if we're thinking about, pain, a lot of times pain will originate from an overactive muscle. So if we're having hip pain, again, it depends on where the hip pain is, but if we're going to just be real generic, and we're going to think of the body as a front and a back. All right, so we're going to neck, go triangle of our torso, and the triangle of our hips. And then we got our legs, right? Have some arms. Make a little fist, right? So if we are having, let's say this is the front of the body, and we're having pain in our hip on the front side. This is where, again, we look at posture deviations, we look at how we move and things of that nature to get the complete picture. But in a very basic sense, if we're feeling it on the front of the hip, it's likely something on the posterior, right? And so we would then look at the backside of the athlete and see what kind of things are causing us issues there. You can't really see much of for him on this. I'm sure Paul could watch this and find exactly what the issue is. But likely what's happening is, why is it mild hip pain for like 2 months? A lot of times is we have weak hip flexors. We have hip flexors that don't have enough strength to contend with the overactive glute. And so again, if we think of it in a very narrow sense, like we have this, let's just say we have this post in the ground, right? And we have one rope that is pulling it this way, or at least just putting tension on it this way.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire a whole team of yous.
Try posting a job on LinkedIn. It's
And then we have another rope
professional network. Unlike resumes, LinkedIn gives a real
that is somewhere else on there,
candidate skills, experiences, and
but
more.
it's pulling even harder.
You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
What do we expect to see happening over time?
With LinkedIn. Post your
Right,
free
we're going to
job
expect
at
to see over time is that there's going to be a
That's
shift
LinkedIn.com/qualify. Terms
in the
and
angle
conditions
here,
apply.
right? That the post is going to start getting pulled out of place. Well, what ends up happening in our bodies, right, is we start feeling this. Well, this is connected somewhere else too, right? Our bodies, there is nothing that's just free, right? So this is going to be connected to another bone. And as this bone gets pulled out this way, so to speak, we're going to start feeling irritation over here. Because, again, this guy wants to pull this way. It's trying to pull this way, but it's being over lengthened and being forced out this way. So then it has to relax and turn off. Normal muscle phenomenon. Right? All that's normal to create, but if it goes beyond its tolerance, right, then there's got to be some slack given. It's physics. Like, you have a rope tied onto something. Is it the rope that's going to give, or is it going to be the knot on the end of the rope that gives? Is it going to be the eye bolt or whatever it's tied on that's going to give? Like, something's going to give if we put too much force through it. And so, while this might be the problem, right? This may be the manifestation, the physical manifestation of the problem, the observable manifestation. This is what we feel. That's what gets our mind. That's that nagging pain. Like, what the fuck is it? Like, I'm mashing on it, I'm rubbing on, I'm doing all this stuff over here. Meanwhile, we're not addressing the actual cause. And unfortunately, one of the phenomenons of our body is when we mash and dig and palpate on crap, we will get a signal of just like, relax, calm, ignore, stop. So we're telling this muscle over here that's hanging on for dear fucking life to just stop. Give in. Give into it. Just allow it to happen. And that will eventually lead to more and more issues there. Now, for our hero, deadlifting. I turn off my music? Or did the music just end? Music just ended. So for our gentleman here, he hurt like hell, so he had to stop. And so during that, maybe we stopped the offending behavior. Maybe we did some corrective exercises to help assist to help mitigate the offending behavior, right? Various things could have happened throughout that time. Doesn't know what caused it, which is typical of muscle imbalances. We know muscle imbalances, again, we're talking with another athlete, RSI. In office places, blue collar or white collar workers, even blue collar workers, right? You have the repetitive stress injury that can occur. All this is a repetitive stress injury that occurred, and we happen to associate it with exercise in some way. Now, why does he feel better about it with deadlifts? Or why is he feeling better about doing deadlifts? He's creating motion. Movement is medicine, as corny and dopey as that shit sounds. And so by that token, he's hip hinging and creating shortness and brevity into his hip flexors, which is giving them strength to then challenge the glute and allowing your glutes and external rotators to turn off in a moment to get to this hinge. And then we challenge the glutes in their lengthened position and stand up. And again, with the weight, you may even be bracing a little bit more appropriately and things of that nature, intentionally or unintentionally. And so we get a nice synergy or harmony going back into the body, building up proper strength. There may be other things that you do in your workout that also are helping build your hip flexor strength. So maybe you're doing things like incline presses. We saw that earlier with another athlete. Maybe you're picking your knees up during those efforts. So now again, you're strengthening your hip flexors unintentionally. You're lengthening your glutes unintentionally. Maybe you're doing something like bent rows. Right, so again, that's going to be another one where we're in a lengthened glute position. Our hip flexors are going to have to be active, keeping us stable there. And then we're rowing as well. So again, our glutes are active and keeping our body there as well. So while it may seem mysterious, right, there could be some breadcrumbs that lead all of this. I'm glad to hear you feel better after deadlifts. That's a good sign. I would be mindful, though, is like the next day or two, does that nagging pain come screaming back, or does it seem to help satiate or calm it, right? And those are going to be things to be paying attention to, so that way we don't do more of something that's just going to irritate it, right? And so a lot of times, if we're having hip pain, right, when we get to lockout, that actually might be the most excruciating part. And if it's what I'm assuming is by his description of mild hip pain, it may feel like you want to do it. You may want to squeeze harder into that extension and really try to stretch your hip flexor, try to stretch the pain out. It's not going to be the case. Won't benefit you. In fact, he's probably benefiting most from being in this deep hip hinge and challenging himself down there, spending more time in the bottom position versus the top. Would be my hypothesis, 30,000 feet away. A Hallows imp, or the Hallow simp. The Hollow simp or the Hallows imp. I don't know which is a better way of saying that. Did we lose a dog? We lost a dog. Oh, well. All right, y'all. We got time for one more, and then I got to boogie and get on with my day. First time deadlift. All right, congratulations. Let's look at it. Says I am not lifting this bar above this place. First time deadlift, and we did it once.
Hi, here's your report.
Thanks, Jane.
All right,
I wish I could
smartass.
hire a whole team of yous.
Try posting a job on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network. Unlike resumes, LinkedIn gives a real-time view into a candidate's skills, experiences, and more.
Huh, let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane.
All right.
Another
We don't have a lot to look at here to work
Find your
with,
perfect
but
match
we have
with
enough.
LinkedIn. Post your free job at linkedin.com.
So as we're getting into the hip hinge,
linkedin.com/qualify. Terms and conditions apply.
again, it's not as the way it looks plenty light for this individual. Again, this would be a moment too where taking these pins and lowering them as low as they can and doing rack pulls wouldn't be a bad option, especially if you're new to this lift. But that being said, going from this position, good job getting down to the bar. Whatever, that's fine. Not as concerned by that kind of thing. And we're seeing a similar effect though. Action. We're a little what I feel is we're in a squat position more so than a deadlift position. That's okay. And like I said, they're very similar movements, very hip dominant focuses. So one thing I'm noticing again, we get a little roundness of our low back here, a little butt wink action kind of thought. So being mindful of that, working on again that cat-cow core engagement. So it's want to try to be as parallel as we can with our torso with a slight thoracic extension would be what I would like to see. Now that being said, again, we talked about it earlier with the other athlete. Really, if we can just get this lumbar in a neutral position, and if you're wanting to work this in a this thoracic kind of rounded, again, it's an acceptable variation or variation. Different form. But again, it's this collapsed stomach that we need to work on, this lengthening into the abs. And so getting down to this position may be tough for you with that parameter. And so again, using the rack pull, if it looks like you have different hooks, heights you could use, yeah, you can get down maybe even lower. If you can get even lower, that might be good. And just taking this steel bar here and putting it down this depth, and then doing rack pulls from there. Other things again, kind of we're seeing is this bar is really out in front of you, and we noticed that too when you got down into the position, the bar rolled forward on you. So working on pulling your shoulders down, push the hips slightly up, slight pull of the knees back, and by doing those hewings, right, that should also bring that bar closer in. I'd like to have, and most people are going to coach it, that your shoulders should be over the bar, over the middle of your foot. And so being at this angle, right, we don't get a full view of it, but we can still make the leap that it's probably pretty far away from our shins. And if it isn't far away from our shins, again, that's showing us that our knees are going too far forward, which means our butt's probably too low, and that we're going to be more in a squat position. And getting the bar back and getting ourselves a little further back. We see kind of how the bar rolls into us a little bit at the end. I would just try to get it there, get it tight, take all the slack out, and then make the drive through the legs. So as we're lifting, we get a little roundness of the back. Again, I feel like we're pulling the knees back. You notice how we're really far forward. Our shoulders are forward. Our knees are kind of locked out, like we're trying to stay away from the bar almost. We're trying to dodge someone, like we're trying to slide by somebody on a plane or the movie theater. We don't want to slide our butt or our groin in their face. And pull the bar back, fall back, long stomach, Superman chest. You want to have that core engagement all the way up, pushing through the legs, drive the hips in to bring the shoulders back. Would be the things I would focus on. We don't get to see a lot of reps for this individual. I'd like to have seen more just to see how they progressed throughout the set, see what kind of changes may have been made. But I would, again, for them, really working on, even at the, good God, dog. Sound like a wet fart. But working on trying to have even your shoulders sitting back a little more, driving the hips forward. Having a slight bend to the knee is okay, versus this completely locked out sense of the knee. Now, this individual, it looks like they'd probably actually, I haven't brought it up yet today, but something like a knee bend, a full kneel or even half kneels, like lunges, right? And so if we get ourselves into a lunge, have our back foot down, knee up, we got our little pelvis, and then we'll have our other leg. I always get nervous drawing fucking squats on. People think, well, what the hell is he drawing? Not big ass shoulders. In case. So this lunge would be good, or if we did it, or half kneel or a lunge would be good, or if you wanted to do a full kneel, right? So a full kneel would just be feet. Right, and we just have both knees kneeling would be our full kneel. Both these variations would be really beneficial for this guy. And so what we'll see here is on the full kneel, the double kneel, the two kneel, right? Both our hips are in a lengthened position. Both our quads are going to be in a lengthened position. And then what you can do to add challenge or strength into here, right, is we would lean back slightly and then pull ourselves back up. And if you were doing this, I'd encourage you to have some sort of, use some sort of anchor, right? Help yourself stay supported. Right, so you have a wall, and you have a rope or something, or a handle. So that way, again, you don't go to the point of no return. Now, if we're going to stick with just the standard lunge, right, we still get on this right hip, the opposite hip, let's call it, we still are getting all this length on the hip and the quad. Whereas this I like about lunges is because we're bipedal, right? We walk everywhere. We don't hop necessarily everywhere. And so this also creates a reciprocal, so to speak, length on the opposite glute. So both, typically we're going to find one that the lunge is going to be ideal for most people depending on their imbalance, right? Typically we're going to have one that's going to be a little more squirrely than the other. Now, like I work with a doctor, and he has rounds that he has to do, and so he does a lot of standing and kind of leaning over. So he actually benefits more from the full kneel because both his hips are kind of jacked up in that regards. But a lot of times, many of us are going to be kind of favor one side over the other. And so the standard lunge would be more beneficial because, again, we're going to create length on one hip, length in the other glute. And then where where we get the magic is not being in the position, rather trying to create effort into position. Take it into a position where we feel big stretch. And I'm kind of showing this in a kind of a crappy way too, right? Landmarks on lunges is if we think about our spine, we want the lower leg or the down leg to be in line with that spine. So if we were to change this angle of our back leg to be more like something like that, right? So we have a obtuse angle here versus this right angle, this 90-degree angle there. What this means then is our torso will now need to be more out here. All right, so that way we're maintaining that relationship with our spine and that rear leg. And this does a couple of things. One, it's going to put a lot of stress in this hip and quad, but it's also going to load this right glute and hamstring a lot more. And then from here, we can work on the up and down sense. Pushing through both legs is one practice that we can do to really work on helping lengthen into these hips and these tissues where they're not used to being or not used to having to work. So again, that would help again work on trying to create some length in his hips, because again, as we see here at this standing position, I know part of we're kind of catching him maybe wanting to set it down, but this kind of lean forward and then the almost lock knees at the top here. All right, so we want to be able to open this area up a little more. And so to be able to open up any joint, we have to help it feel stable there. So that means we have to lengthen into them, but also create strength in that new position. And so Slow Learner 69, congratulations on starting your deadlift journey, my man. All in all, for being the first one is not too terrible. As I'm watching you, your head is like really close to this wall. Be mindful of that, right? Too. Maybe just slide yourself back, get a little off balance, and that weight pulls you forward. You're gonna have a good time. Or maybe put it like a mat or something there just to give yourself a little cushion. I like the exercise bands. Exercise bands are awesome. Find some weight. We can use that to help. We can actually use that a little bit for you to learn your hip hinge as well. You could move that lower, put it around your hips, and then just work on an easy hip hinge and resist into the band, getting the glutes to work. Use it on the ground, put it across your hips, and do some glute bridges. It's a nice overload, but just different ways of using that band. Getting back to your deadlift though, and not me snooping around your gym setup. I always revert back to it, but the dowel hinge is going to be a great place if you're new at learning deadlift or squat. The dowel hinge is such a amazing tool to learn and reveal what's really happening when you move. It doesn't give you a chance to hide if you are listening or trying to pay attention, right? That would go a long ways, and again, just helping you get comfortable with the movement. Once you start learning the pattern, right? That old adage, if you gotta learn how to walk before you can run, same idea here. We gotta learn how to dowel hip hinge. We have to learn how to engage our core first. Then we can start moving weights. Then we can start challenging the movements. So I think I've been long-winded about it enough. It is 8 o'clock, y'all. Past 8. Means I gotta get on with my life and start doing something else. I appreciate everybody sliding by. We had Panelito. We had Degenerate. We had Big Bean Burrito coming on through today. Thank y'all for all the lurkers and people hanging out in the background. Appreciate it. And for anybody on Reddit that came through, as I sent you a chat or you just found us, I appreciate y'all coming. And our whole gist here, our whole thing is just helping people get better at exercise. Helping them perform the movements better and proper for the way joints mechanics work for all humans. If we're having pain, helping y'all alleviate the pain, get away from the pain. So that way, again, you can keep on doing the things you love and enjoy. If you ever got questions, comments, or concerns, hit me up here on Twitch, direct message me. That's cool. We got Reddit, we got Blue Sky, we got all the social medias. I think we're gonna be getting we got IG, we got Facebook. So find us, holler at us. That's what we're here for. Thank you again, and as always, stay mindful as fuck, y'all, and don't compensate. Y'all be well, have a great one, and I'll see y'all next time.